Previously on Lady Wendy Show, we explained what is diabetes and high blood pressure. Dr. Ifill, who specializes in internal and alternative medicine, explained.
In diabetes, insulin, in some cases, it's totally absent. In some cases, it is sort of deficient. In some cases, the insulin itself, it isn't of good quality.
Okay.
And in certain people, especially obese people with type 2 diabetes, they can develop what we call insulin resistance, in which insulin may be adequate, it may be okay, but the tissues in obese people sort of resist the influence of insulin.
Okay.
So it also does not facilitate the entry of glucose into cells.
Okay.
People get nervous, anxious about disease. When a disease is finally diagnosed, over time, people sort of get to accept and acknowledge.
We have in our audience right now Percival Holder.
And a survivor, Mr. Holder, who had diabetes for over 30 years, shared his experiences.
About 26 years of age. That's over 30-something years ago. I would advise anyone who have diabetes to take it pretty serious. I would say, first of all, for men, I got to be clear of you can lose your activity as men. And if you're serious about yourself and want to have children and a family, better make sure you take care of yourself.
Remember to listen to part 1 on ladywendyshow.com and on YouTube. Now, for the second part of the show, managing diabetes and high blood pressure through proper foods and exercise.
Oh, thanks for staying with us. I have joining me right now Sandy Johnson, the manager for dietitian at the hospital, the Guyana General Hospital. Welcome. And right here we have Abigail Caleb from the Ministry of Health. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you're a nutrition and one is a dietitian. Now, you've sat and you've heard about the complications that are leading to diabetes, hypertension. And I will start with you, Sandy. Tell me a little bit about yourself, first of all.
Well, my background is a home economics teacher.
Oh.
Which is good to do with food and nutrition.
That's right.
And then later I did nutrition and dietetics. Hence I'm at the hospital as a nutritionist dietitian also. And I manage the dietary department. Now I'd like to start off by making a general statement, and I'm very firm with my statement. Diabetes is one of the conditions that is easily controlled if my fellow Guyanese, men, women, and children, eat correctly. You know, we are in this habit, Guyanese is in this habit of eating. Balancing the meals, eating the right food, eating at the right time, when you're a diabetic is very, very important. Carbohydrate is a glucose condition where sugar gets to the blood very quickly. So we have to watch the amount of starch, carbohydrate foods that we eat, because it's broken down during the digestive process into sugar, and it goes to the bloodstream immediately. Now, a person who is a diabetic stays long to drop. A non-diabetic, it drops in a short time. And if that happens on a regular basis, then you will get all the symptoms, you will suffer from all the side effects with the eyes, the kidneys, if it's on a long-term basis. However, medication, in my opinion, and from what I have experienced working with diabetics, if they follow the diet, if they exercise, they can control diabetes and suffer from no side effects.
Okay.
It's just about management.
Management. Interesting. Now, when someone here in Guyana, I'm not quite familiar, has found out that they've got diabetes, is there programs in place in Guyana, let's say, to tell them how to eat? Because I know overseas that they have a lot of programs. From the day you discover you're diabetic, you're told what not to eat.
Yes.
Is that here at the Georgetown
Yes,
Hospital?
it is there. We have the diabetic clinics, which
Okay.
are run 4 days a week. We have a diabetic educator who is on leave,
Okay.
specifically for diabetics. And I manage the eating, the kitchen, so to speak. And I have to prepare meals the diabetic way for diabetics in the hospital. So,
Is there a difference from the diabetic in the hospital and out of the hospital?
no, when they're in the hospital is because they're in a crisis situation.
Okay.
When they're home, it means they are managing it and it's under control. When it gets to the crisis stage, as Guyanese, and this is what they do,
Okay.
they end up in the hospital. Sometimes they repeat. When they get out, they come back in.
Now, from the ministry standpoint, what is it that you do as a nutritionist? Do you monitor that the hospital and all these clinics, in terms of diabetic, how do you fit in this equation?
Okay. Well, I'm from the Food Policy Division within the Ministry of Public Health, and we have a mandate to ensure a high standard of nutrition for all members of the population throughout the life cycle, ranging from the infant to the elderly, as it relates to, and all nutrition-related matters, whether it be chronic illnesses such as diabetes and hypertension, or micronutrient deficiencies such as anemia, etc. As it relates to diabetes, hypertension, as well as heart disease, and to some extent cancers, these are the major chronic illnesses in Guyana. We have officers that are employed or that rotate at various health facilities at the primary health care level. These would be the health centers, and to some extent at the hospitals, where they work along with the clinic that Ms. Johns would have mentioned at Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. Each health center and some health posts offer chronic illnesses clinic. We also train staff, healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, medics, nursing assistants, etc., in the management, specifically looking at the nutritional management of diabetes, hypertension, and other chronic illnesses. Because unfortunately, we do have a paucity of nutrition personnel in country. So yeah, we do what we can and we train.
Is it too late to say that those policies are really being done, that maybe perhaps we should do it at a younger age in the schools? What are your thoughts on that?
And I am actually glad that you mentioned the schools, because we are about to launch the National Food-Based Dietary Guidelines that were developed specifically to prevent chronic illnesses and other nutritional deficiencies, because, I mean, currently they're responsible for 70% of deaths in Guyana, especially diabetes and hypertension. So there are 9 dietary guidelines that range from advice on diet, fat, salt, sugar, alcohol abuse, physical activity, eating more fruits and vegetables, eating a variety of foods in correct proportions. And these guidelines are targeted to the entire population. We also have guidelines on breastfeeding, so we're looking at capturing the younger population from the schools, well, the babies, into the nursery schools, onto the primary schools, the adolescents in secondary, the adults, and the elderly. So yes, we are in the process of, not that we haven't been doing it, but because of more like increasing our efforts, because we are seeing an increase not just in the numbers of the incidence of diabetes and hypertension, but the demographics, the age group that are affected. Previously it was known as an older adult disease. Now you're seeing persons in their 20s and 30s, more and more, who are being diagnosed. So, we need to get them when they're in their adolescence, or even before, when they're in their childhood. Yeah.
Absolutely. I am 100% on board with that. Because I believe you start with the younger ones. Because sometimes they say when a tree's already bent, it's hard to straighten it up. But if you can start there. That said, Sandy, what would be the average calories? Do you count calories when you prepare those dietary?
Yes,
What
we
is the
do.
average meal would be?
In the
Start with
hospital,
me with
in the,
as a
in the
diet
hospital setting.
settings.
First, I'll have to establish how active you are, what you're doing. I've got to get a height. I've got to get your weight.
Your body mass
Then I'll have to do
index.
Then I have to work with the body, and then I can tell you exactly the calories. But in the hospital setting where they're not active, they're just lying there, we give them a 1,500 calorie diet. But it can range from 15, if you're not very active, to 2,000, 1,800, 2,000.
Oh, if you're not very active,
If you're
the
doing
15
like,
and 1,500 is not a lot of calories. You can.
it's not a lot of calories.
That's like 2 grapes
But
or
no,
two
No,
piece
it
of
isn't.
pineapple.
No, it isn't. Here what
You
happens.
can manage.
It's a lot of food you can get. Here what happens. It's the carbohydrates and the fats that we have to pay attention to. So we reduce the carbohydrate, and to compensate for that, you have to use a lot of vegetables.
Yes.
Because of the fiber in the vegetables, it will give the patient or any diabetic that full feeling. So they won't have to go nibbling.
And you know, Guyanese don't like much vegetables. One of the things that when I would be overseas and I would be entertaining, and they come to your house, 90% of the food that's left
Starch.
back on their plate
It's the vegetables.
Is
is
it
vegetables.
vegetables?
I
Yeah,
used to be amazed.
That's
you know.
specifically why we included in these national guidelines a separate guideline on fruits and another on vegetables, because here in Guyana, unlike many countries, production is not our problem. You know, and if you buy seasonal, then cost is
cheaper,
not so
yeah.
much of a problem for most persons, but you know, it's the culture in that we want more starch. You know, we're accustomed to seeing a much significantly larger proportion of starch, of staples, rice, bread, roti, flour, etc., as opposed to vegetables. And I think also that when vegetables are promoted, sometimes, you know, it's in a certain manner that may not be more acceptable. Because if you're not accustomed to eating vegetables and I bring to you a salad, I mean, you're more likely to leave it back. So, you know, we're also working on, you know, ways where we can incorporate it into the diet, making it not only attractive, but also tasty. Do we juice it, you know? Do we put it into foods? Do we, in the National School Feeding Program, the breakfast program that the president has rolled out as part of his B's, we have sandwiches that incorporate a source of protein or meat with the vegetable. So for instance, you have cheese, you get, you know, protein for growth. We have raw carrots blended into that, yeah. And you don't see it. The children don't detect the taste, and they love it.
Oh, very good.
So
Well, let's just take a small break here, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Now, Abigail, you were saying something that I want you to just repeat very quickly for me when we just went on break.
Incorporating
the fruits and the vegetables?
Yes.
Yeah, so what we're also trying to promote with the national guidelines are ways in which persons can incorporate fruits and vegetables into their meals. For instance, making fruit and vegetable juices. We have a very famous callaloo and mango drink.
Yeah. Okay.
That is tasty, pumpkin and orange drink. Or if it's making sandwiches, you know, whereas you either mash, grate, blend, or puree, if you have a food processor, the vegetable, you know, raw but clean, you mix it into your meat or your cheese or whatnot, and you make sandwiches or put it on the food. And this is especially important for children, because I find with the children, it's not, they say it's the taste, but when they can't see it, when it's hidden, the taste is not a factor.
Okay. And my final question before we go, I'm very concerned about the different vending on the streets. I see a lot of people, and I think that's one of the real costs, I believe, of what's happening with the diabetes, the increase in diabetes. There's so many pastry eating food. Now in North America, they're actually telling you when you go to all of those fast food places, how many calories you're eating. Are there any plans in place for calories or for educating the people out there who are putting those patties, cheese straws in their mouth so frequently? Is there any plans to tell them, like, look, just like you have to be tobacco, where you say if you're smoking because it's called the leading cause of death in North America, is there any plans in place to talk about that?
Okay,
do you know?
So two things. First of all, the reason why we see that happening now is because there's been a shift in culture. It's less homegrown, less home prepared, more on the go, you know, as it comes with working homes and persons having less time. To tackle that, one is that there can be certain restrictions in place in terms of ban on trans fats that, you know, that major that lead to heart disease, or in promoting low sodium or low salt foods.
Yes.
That's at the level of the establishment. At the level of the population, it's educating them. Even though those foods are available, don't make them your first choice, and certainly don't make them a frequent choice.
Okay.
In terms of having the calorie content of those foods and so in place, unfortunately currently there isn't a policy in place, but with the implementation of the national guidelines, that is one of the things to be addressed. Not just the vendors, but also the school policies in terms of school health and in workplaces.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you're actually on the right track. I want to thank you, ladies, for coming down here. I hope you, the listening audience out there, and you, the audience in the house here, do get a sense the importance of eating well. Food choices, watching your salt intake is very important, and the type of foods you eat. And because of that, we are going to turn the next part of the show into alternative medicine, and we'll have the very good Dr. Eiffel come back and share with you some other forms of alternative medicine so that we have a wide scope of how to live, laugh, and love, and live that healthy life so that we can live for a very long time to see our great-great-great-grandchildren. Thank you, and thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Welcome back again. Wow, we've now into our second part of our show, and we have brought back Dr. Eiffel, who, as you know, he's internal medicine, but one of the things that he's passionate about is alternative medicine. So, Dr. Eiffel, tell me a bit about alternative medicine and what you mean by that.
Okay. Alternative medicine essentially is any therapeutic, meaning any healing method outside of traditional Western medicine.
Okay.
And there are various modalities of alternative medicine. Since I came back home, when I tell people, for example, that I practice alternative medicine, 99% of them, they tell me bush.
Bush medicine.
Yes, but bush or herbal medicine is just one small aspect of alternative medicine. And so there are various modalities of alternative medicine. There's energy healing methods such as Qigong, there's Reiki, there is hands-on healing, there's therapeutic touch, there's acupuncture, there's acupressure, there's vibrational medicine. What else? There are a whole host of healing methods outside of traditional Western medicine. Most of them come from the East. There's some from Africa. There are even methods from South America.
Okay. So let me get a sense, because I mean, as a layman to alternative medicine, I come to you at your clinic, because he does have 2 clinics, and at the end of the show I will announce where they are, but I can tell you one in Buxton for sure, and at the Lab in Georgetown, and now you're also set your site in Bartica. Now, I come to you and I say I'm not feeling well, and I would like to know what's wrong with me, but I'm not interested in traditional medicine, or what I'm interested in learning more about your alternative medicine. What would be the first thing you would do to me?
Okay. I practice alternative medicine, but I also practice traditional Western medicine, internal medicine. So the interview is the same. I would find out from you, for example, your past medical history, your family history, if you're allergic to any medications, if you've had any surgery in the past, the regular stuff.
Well, then I tell you I'm hypertension then. How would you treat me alternatively for I said I don't want to take my blood pressure pills anymore. I would like you to work on me with my hypertension. What would you do?
Okay. There are herbal preparations for hypertension. There is a Chinese healing method called Paidalajin. In Chinese medicine, the Chinese believe that all chronic disease conditions are caused by what we call blocked meridians. Meridians are energy channels in the human body. They tend to follow tendons in the body, and essentially they beat along the tendons, and after they're finished, they put you on an apparatus and stretch the tendons. It has been shown to be pretty effective in treating high blood pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you do that, so I could come to you and you could stretch my tendons?
Yes.
Okay. I also, when I visited you, you showed me that this instrument. Could you explain that it's like a preliminary? If I came to you, you would be able to say, I haven't done this test on me. You'll be able to say, well, you may have an illness in the body. You have a blockage. And then I guess you will follow up with traditional medicine, like how you would say do blood tests. What is that instrument? Tell us about how it works.
Okay, it's called a quantum resonance magnetic analyzer.
Okay.
It is an apparatus. The body, the cells and the tissues in the body have a magnetic field, a sort of small current. Okay. When the tissue or cells are healthy, that current has a certain amplitude. When they are diseased, it has let's say a lower amplitude, and the machine is able to pick up on that. So if, for example, you have an issue in your liver or your kidney, after running it, the machine will tell you that there is an issue in your kidney or your liver based on the magnetic signature or the energetic signature in that organ. Yes. Because I also practice internal medicine, whatever information I get from that instrument, I could take a closer look at that particular organ or particular situation. It is particularly good in picking up issues of prostate, kidney, liver, sometimes heart. I've noted that there are some practitioners, none of them doctors that I know of in Guyana, who have the apparatus. One of the dangers I saw a patient recently. She saw one of these practitioners, and the machine gives you a readout, and he told her she's going to get a stroke, she's this, she's that, blah, 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 based on essentially what the machine says. What the machine says needs further investigation, needs human interpretation.
But you know, I agree with you, because there is, I'm not saying that some practitioner out there may not be getting you the right or wrong answer, but it's a plus, I must say, that you have internal medicine, or you're a doctor by profession, and you have both, so that if you could follow through with what the machine is saying. And so I would like to come, but I won't tell you what's wrong with me. I take back everything I said here on the show, and have you test me, and so we can see if there's other things that are wrong. And I think it's prevention is another way of prevention, because prevention is better than cure. So if you can prevent this very early, so I'm assuming that you would recommend this to persons out there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I thank you very much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. I am very, very happy that you were able to join the Lady Wendy show today. And I'm hoping that if you want, I will put his number up on the screen if they need to contact you or to visit your clinic. And once again, welcome back to Guyana. And I know you had a couple of tips that you told me yesterday, and that is water. You were giving me a couple of things, and I would like you to say it very quickly before we close.
Okay. There is a Western model for alternative medicine. It has finally come down. The Western model of alternative medicine essentially says that all chronic disease is caused by chronic inflammation. And there are a set of factors, of potential factors that cause chronic inflammation. Among them, toxins, including cigarette smoking, alcohol, pesticides, sugar is among them. There are food allergies or food intolerances. Among them, milk, cow's milk, and gluten, which is a protein from flour. We have chronic dehydration. Most people don't drink enough water.
Okay.
And in the tropics, it is even more important.
Water drinking.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And we will have to leave it there. And of course, you will be my in-house doctor. I'm sure I'll be seeing you for lots of our shows. I thank you, and I hope that this was very informative for you, the audience who's in here, and those visiting audience out there. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, we are very proud to have the two nutritionists, Miss Sandy Johnson and Abigail Caleb. And once again, thank you for coming, and of course, Percival Holder for sharing his experience 30 years plus with diabetes. Thank you, and have a good day.
You're welcome.
Is your business experiencing slow traffic? Then it's time you turn to advertising. Advertising works. If you don't already have a video ad for your business for us to use, we can help you put it together. For more information, email info@ladywendyshow.com.